Back, you are watching Focus on Africa. Liberia's lower house of parliament has approved a motion to set up a war crimes court more than 2 decades after the end of a devastating civil conflict. Now, this moves the country a step closer to attaining justice for the victims of the civil conflicts that killed more than 250,000 people between 1989 and 2003. More than two-thirds of the House voted in favor of the resolution, which will now move to the Senate, where it will be debated before it is passed on to President Boakai. In 2009, Liberia's Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommended for the establishment of the court. But the move was resisted, partly because of a number of accused warlords who remain influential. Some in the country have voiced their opposition to the motion, though, saying it will reopen old wounds in the country. So how significant is this move? I spoke to Jonathan Fonati Koffa, who's the Speaker of Liberia's House of Representatives.
We think this is an extremely significant move. Since the civil war in Liberia, this is the first time legislative action has begun to initiate the issues of impunity and accountability in Liberia. Previously, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission set the stage. There was some legislation to guide the process. The process stalled. It has now been initiated by the resolution of the House.
Would there be any provision to remove the protection or immunity from political leaders if they were found guilty of involvement in past war crimes?
The issue of immunity for political leaders has not been established legally or constitutionally. There may be some issues referred to in the Comprehensive Peace Accord of Accra. We will need to look at those provisions. But the first thing we have to do is we have to initiate the process, which will lead to a statute. Once that statute is negotiated and enacted, then we'll go to a process. And it is in that process, based on the statute, that any issue of immunity will occur. But I do not believe that anyone has immunity.
Why do you think it's taken so long to get here in this whole process?
Well, it has taken so long to get here because some of the actors or some of those who were named by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as being those bearing the greatest responsibility have been principal actors in the Liberian political process. And the political class in Liberia has made some determination that in order to maintain peace, you have to let these issues go.
How much of a hand would you say the president, Joseph Boakai, his party had in all this? Because I believe it was part of their campaign promise to move justice away from foreign courts and to bring it closer home for those affected by these war crimes.
This is going to be a largely Liberian process. But the reason why the international partners will be involved is a capacity issue. We like the judges, the prosecutors who are trained in these matters. They have to be trained. They have to be capacitated. So that's the issue that is at hand. There is a collective conscience that have spoken to this process that have brought it up this far. So we think the president leading the executive along with the legislature having one mind and the political will on this issue has brought it front and center.
Well, the motion is yet to be debated at the Senate, and then, later on will be passed on to the president should the Senate approve it or assent to it. Are there any concerns that there could be any interference to do away with the bill or to quash it?
We have no fear in that regard. Of course, this is a political process, so there will be proponents and there will be opponents.
So are there examples of countries in Africa that have successfully set up war crimes courts?
Well, the most one we can think about is the Sierra Leone model, which was very successful. That brought President Charles Taylor of Liberia to trial. That's the one that comes to mind most successfully.
20 years on, might this tribunal or these war crimes courts struggle to get evidence? Victims might have forgotten details of what happened, or they might be sketchy. What are your thoughts on how you plan to tackle that?
There's always a possibility of that, but during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hearings, a lot of this evidence was taken and preserved. A lot of the testimony was taken and preserved. A lot of the witnesses are still around. I think memories can be refreshed. It is very traumatic that people you wouldn't believe remember details even 20 years on because these things really happened to them or these are things they really witnessed that were very traumatic in their lives and very monumental in their lives that they cannot erase from memory.
Liberia is yet to try a single person for the many war crimes that were committed those many years ago because some of the perpetrators became powerful politicians. What could be the ramification of their crimes in this war crimes court?
Those who bear the greatest responsibility will be held accountable no matter who they are.
Fonati Koffa is the Speaker of Liberia's House of Representatives.